I just say a couple of things. I really agree with the person who said about, what is a student at university? It damages it. It damages it beyond all kind of, to the degree to which, that can't be allowed to happen. And I think, we live in a time of timidity and conservatism in the universities. And we have to break that. And I think there are examples of non-compliance, there are examples of departments who refuse to pass on information. Those things are things that are happening inside. As well as, I think, one of the things, this will be a minute, I think the way this system works, where the shift to skills and individuality, what that does is it atomizes people, it divides them, it makes them fearful, and it individualizes them. That's what I think at bottom. And I wasn't making a sort of snide comment about the person I spoke about at the beginning, but it's telling, you could sense the violation and the fear. That's how it works.
Thank you very much. Phil.
Okay. Well, just to respond to the one question that was put to me and some of the more general issues that were raised, I do think it's entirely conceivable that we might see attempts to see the NHS as one venue where outsourced immigration control takes place. There were attempts about a decade ago or so in the state of California to deny a number of public services to undocumented migrants. Unfortunately, I have to say, with a government such as the one led by David Cameron, I wouldn't at all rule it out that proposals like that might surface on this side of the Atlantic. I think, generally, we are in many ways talking about the outsourcing of migration, and perhaps also the offshoring, and the privatization of migration enforcement. That's really why we're here to some extent, because ultimately we are not Crown employees. We're indirectly government employees, but very indirectly. And this case we read about over the course of the past few days, let's not forget, took place on board a private company, British Airways, which was essentially roped in to enforce migration decisions. So that's important to appreciate as well, because it obviously opens up also avenues for resistance, where migration control is essentially atomized and brought down to the grassroots level. It also opens up avenues for resistance. About the broader European developments, it seems to me that, it's difficult really to detect a common pattern there, because there seem to be very different things going on in different countries, and to some extent we're witnessing debates about integration in these countries, which take on a nasty turn, but which are not really necessarily the same thing as we're experiencing here in the UK, but it's really a pronounced economic downturn, where there's a clear attempt to use that to utilize latent xenophobia, unfortunately. Thirdly, I think, and lastly, you'll be glad to hear, I think over the course of the past decade, it's important to appreciate that in a fundamentally liberal country such as the UK, there has been a great deal of tight border control on the border, but laissez-faire control on the inside of the country. That is to say, relatively lax controls in the workplace. And I think that is starting to change, and there's a great deal of room for maneuver there to really put on the screws and to really crack down on immigration practices that were heretofore tolerated. And I have to say, based on just the evidence of the past 2 years, I think that is where the trend is heading.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Well, I just thought they were great contributions, and I think it's going to be a great conference. On the question of sanctuary, I think I don't need to tell you, it's up to us to create the alternative university now. It's up to us to create that environment, and I just think solidarity and unity are the most important things. And by that I mean that the student here, the citizen student, must have solidarity with the overseas student. All students must have solidarity with the cleaners and the other migrant workers, and create a rolling scheme of alternative universities, link up with other similar bodies in other universities, because I do believe your biggest weapon is the power that you have to frighten the university leadership. I think they would be terrified that we could be moving back to a 60s situation, and let's get there quickly.
Thanks, is that all okay? All right.